You remember the stickiness of a scorching Ford Cortina seat in mid-July, your bare legs peeling off the hot vinyl every time your dad braked too hard, the smell of petrol drifting through the open window, tobacco smoke hanging in the car, a paper map rattling in your mother's hands while she said, "You should have turned left back there." That same morning, you had been sitting on the front step, watching the whole street come alive. Neighbors leaned over garden walls, curtains twitched, kids ran in and out of each other's houses, as if the whole street was one giant living room. And then came the holiday. Skegness, Blackpool, Great Yarmouth, Margate, Morecambe, Scarborough, Ryle, somewhere with a grey sea, a sharp wind, and a beach that got into everything. You stood there in a thick wool cardigan, shivering in July, holding a ham sandwich that was half bread and half sand, while your dad insisted the weather was brightening up. It was loud, it was cramped, it was messy, it was uncomfortable. And somehow it was absolutely brilliant, because in the 1960s, a British summer holiday was not built around comfort. It was built around getting away, even if getting away meant 5 people in one car, a flask of tea, damp towels, and a beach that looked like it had been designed to freeze you. If you grew up in 1960s Britain, this video is for you. These are the small things from a British summer holiday that no one wrote down, but every child who lived through them remembers. The first thing you remember is the packing. Carrier bags, cardboard boxes, sandwiches in greaseproof paper, a flask wrapped in a tea towel, a tin of biscuits, a bottle of squash, a spare cardigan, a raincoat, another cardigan, because your mother did not trust British weather for a single minute. Everything went in the boot. Then more things went on top of that. Then your father stood there saying, "That'll never fit," before somehow making it fit by pushing everything down with both hands and slamming the boot lid shut. Your mother had packed for every possible disaster: rain, cold, hunger, sickness, someone falling in the sea, someone needing a clean vest, someone refusing the sandwiches after all. And you were already excited, not because the holiday was luxurious. It wasn't. You were excited because you were leaving the street. For 1 week, the ordinary rules were changing. Then came the car journey. If your family had a car, it was probably something like a Ford Cortina, an Austin Cambridge, a Morris Oxford, a Hillman Hunter, or later a Morris Marina. There was no air conditioning, no screens, no seat-back entertainment, no playlist. You sat in the back with your knees sticking to the vinyl, a paper bag of sweets between you, and someone's elbow permanently in your ribs. The car smelled of petrol, tobacco, hot plastic, boiled sweets, and travel sickness. Someone always felt sick. Someone always needed the toilet 5 minutes after your father had said, "Nobody needs to go now, do they?" And every 20 minutes someone asked, "Are we nearly there?" Your dad did not need a sat-nav. He had a map, a large paper map that opened like a tablecloth and never folded back properly again. It covered your mother's lap, the dashboard, sometimes half the windscreen, and somehow still failed to show where the turning was. Your mother read it upside down. Your father refused to stop, and every wrong turn became someone else's fault. At some point, you stopped at a lay-by, not a service station with coffee and clean toilets, but a strip of gravel beside the road with lorries thundering past close enough to shake the car. Your mother opened the sandwiches on her lap. Tea came from the flask. The cups had little plastic lids that never quite fitted. Cheese, ham, egg, and cress, paste if times were tight. It did not matter. It tasted of holiday, and then came the first sight of the sea. That was the moment. Someone would shout it from the back seat before anyone else saw it. I can see the sea, and even if it was grey, even if it looked freezing, even if the sky above it was the colour of dishwater, it still felt like magic. For a 1960s child, the sea was not something you saw every day. The sea meant the journey was over. It meant chips in paper, donkey rides, arcades, rock with the town name through the middle, and your father finally stopped looking at the map. The beach itself was never as warm as you imagined. That is the part people forget. British children went to the seaside dressed for hope, not reality. Shorts under a thick jumper, sandals with socks, a cardigan your mother forced you to bring because she knew what that wind could be like. And she was right. The wind came straight off the sea and went through you. You could be shivering by lunchtime and still insist you were having the best day of your life. Your father put up the windbreak like it was serious engineering. He hammered the poles into the sand, pulled the fabric tight, and stood back as if the family's survival depended on that striped canvas. It gave you about 2 feet of protection. Everything else still blew away: the newspaper, the napkins, the paper cups, and your mother's patience. Then came the sandwiches: ham sandwiches, cheese sandwiches, jam sandwiches if you were lucky. They had been wrapped carefully at home and ruined within minutes, because sand got everywhere, in the bread, in the butter, in the paper bag, between your teeth. No one threw them away. You just ate them, because that was lunch, and your mother had not come all this way for you to say you weren't hungry. After lunch, you were allowed near the water. Not in the water at first, near it. Your mother rolled up your trousers or told you to take your shoes off, and you stepped across the wet sand with the confidence of a child who had not yet learned how cold the North Sea could be. Then the first wave touched your feet. It was freezing. You screamed, you laughed, you ran back, then you went straight back in again, because that was what children did. Your father stood at the edge with his trousers rolled up, saying, "It's not bad once you're in," while making no serious attempt to get in. And still, you called it fun. If your family stayed away, the boarding house had a smell of its own. Furniture polish, damp carpet, old curtains, someone else's soap. There was a thin bedspread, a wardrobe that did not quite shut, a little mirror with dark marks at the edges, and sometimes a jug and basin in the corner. The bed creaked, the floorboards creaked, and the bathroom was down the corridor. Breakfast had rules. You came down at the proper time. You sat where you were told. You got cereal, toast, maybe a fried egg, and a woman in an apron who watched the table as if every extra slice of bread was coming out of her own pocket. Toast arrived in a rack already going cold. Tea came in a pot. Marmalade sat in little dishes. And somehow, that became part of the adventure. Then there was the amusement arcade. You could hear it before you went in. The clatter of pennies, the mechanical music, the bells, the wooden machines, the smell of warm dust, old carpet, cigarette smoke, and metal coins. You stood in front of the penny falls, convinced that one more coin would make the whole lot drop. It never did, but you believed it every time. There were slot machines, fortune tellers, crane grabs, little racing games, and machines that gave out tickets or nothing at all. You did not need much money. A few coins could feel like a fortune if you spent them slowly enough. Then suddenly your money was gone. If the town had a pier, it felt like another world. Wooden boards under your feet, gaps where you could see the water below, seagulls overhead, children running ahead, your mother telling you not to go too close to the edge. There were lights, stalls, machines, and sometimes a theatre with names painted outside in bright colours. Just walking along the pier was enough. Then came the rock shop. Every seaside town had one. Sticks of rock stacked in bright colours, with the name of the town running all the way through the middle. Skegness, Blackpool, Margate, Scarborough, Great Yarmouth. You never understood how they got the letters inside. There were postcards on spinning racks, little china animals, shell ornaments, buckets and spades, and plastic windmills turning in the breeze. You wrote, "Having a lovely time," even if it had rained every day, because that was what you wrote. Sometimes you bought a cheap souvenir that broke before you got home, but it came from the holiday, and that made it important. And then there was the food. Holiday food tasted different. Chips from paper tasted better than chips from a plate. Vinegar soaked through everything. The salt stuck to your fingers. You ate them with a little wooden fork that was useless for anything except making you feel like you were properly at the seaside. There were hot donuts if your family could afford them, candy floss that stuck to your face, ice cream that melted down your hand before you had taken 3 bites. There was always one meal your father said was too dear. Then he bought it anyway, fish and chips maybe, or cockles, or whelks that half the family claimed to like, and the other half refused to go near. Back at the boarding house or caravan, there was always tea, a kettle, a chipped mug, bread and butter, tinned fruit, and a packet of biscuits. The weather controlled everything. A sunny day felt like a national event. Your mother got towels out early. Your father said, "We'll make the most of it." Everyone moved faster because nobody trusted the sun to last. But if it rained, the day did not stop. You went anyway. Raincoat over cardigan, shoes full of damp sand, hair stuck to your forehead. You walked along the front in weather that would cancel a modern holiday because you had paid to be there and your parents were not wasting it. There were days when the whole family sat in the car looking at the sea through rain on the windscreen. The wipers moved back and forth. Your father said it might clear. Your mother opened the flask. You ate a biscuit and watched other families doing exactly the same thing in other cars. That was British optimism. Then came the photograph. Someone had a camera. Not everyone, but someone. And when it came out, everyone had to stand still. You stood in a line on the beach, squinting into the light, hair blown sideways, cardigan buttoned wrong, holding a bucket or a melting ice cream. No one smiled naturally. No one got a second chance. The photo came back weeks later, slightly blurred, slightly faded, and somehow more precious than the whole week itself. Years later, that little square photograph would become the proof that you were there, proof that your parents were young once, proof that the cold, sandy, uncomfortable holiday really happened. And the strangest thing is this: the things that annoyed you at the time became the things you remembered most. The cold water, the damp towel, the sandy sandwich, the smell of the car, the boarding house rules, the windbreak falling over, your dad getting lost, your mum telling everyone to put a cardigan on. The holiday was not perfect. That is why it stayed with you. Then came the journey home. The car was quieter on the way back. Everyone was tired. There was sand in the footwell, damp towels in the boot, rock in a paper bag, and a strange sadness in the air that no one mentioned. The closer you got to your own street, the more ordinary life returned. The same houses, the same neighbors, the same front step, but for a few days, you felt different. You had been away, you had seen the sea, you had eaten chips from paper and slept in a strange bed and brought back a souvenir that proved it, and that was enough. Because 1960s holidays were not built around luxury, they were built around making do. A packed car, a paper map, a flask of tea, a windy beach, a sandwich with sand in it, a cardigan in July, a father pretending he knew the way, a mother making sure everyone had eaten. It was not easy. It was not comfortable. Nobody called it glamorous. But if you were there, you know the truth. Those messy, cold, noisy, cramped British holidays became some of the warmest memories of your life. So I want to hear from you now. Where did your family go on holiday in the 1960s? Was it Skegness, Blackpool, Great Yarmouth, Margate, Scarborough, Ryle, Morecambe, or somewhere only your family seemed to go? Tell me what you remember. The car, the sandwiches, the beach, the smell, the thing that still comes back the moment you think about it. Leave your memory in the comments below. Subscribe to Yesterday UK. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.